welcome back to the Back to Business podcast. Today, I'm super excited. I am joined by Mike Lindell, founder and CEO of MyPillow. If you've ever turned on Fox News, you will recognize this voice very soon and the face as well. Mike, thank you so much for being here today. How are we doing?
Real good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, awesome. And where are you today? Where are you located?
I'm actually in Texas today. I'm going to be heading to CPAC.
Oh, nice. All right. And what are your plans there for the day?
Oh, they're endorsing me for governor of the state of Minnesota, so it's pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
And,
That's
and then I have
wonderful.
then I have my Lindell TV. We have a booth there, and so I'll be there all 3 days, 4 days, whatever. So
Okay. All right,
yeah,
wonderful. That's super exciting. I'm
yeah,
sure there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes to that and running and putting yourself out there even more than you already do. So
yeah,
good
yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And in Minnesota, that's wonderful. Well,
Yep,
great. I'm sure they'll be happy to have you.
right
Um,
on.
so today I want to start by going back to the beginning. I want to learn a little bit about Mike, where you started, a little bit about your background and what led you to ultimately start My Pillow, which has become such an iconic brand.
Well, as my story goes, I had kind of two parallel tracks going. I was a very functioning addict for decades, and then but I was always an entrepreneur. Um, so I have these two parallel tracks going on. But the entrepreneur thing, it goes back. I think the last job I ever had for anyone was back when I was 16. I worked at a grocery store, and I also worked at a drive-in movie theater. A lot of people probably don't even know what that is anymore. And and then
Sadly.
and I started getting into different things. I'll give an example. My sister flooded a third-story apartment with a waterbed, and I became a carpet cleaner. So it was here we got a problem. I went to cleaner carpets. I go, hey, this would be a good business, and I had lunch wagon business. I had started all different kinds of businesses, and usually made them. They were very successful, a lot of them. But then I would switch to some to maybe go up a level or do something different. And the pillow was. I had a bar for 13 years, a bar restaurant, and probably not a good place for an addict. But um, the I ended up having to sell that bar in 2003. It was devastating at the time. It was something that was beyond my control. And and then in 2004, I had this idea. I actually had the name for my pillow before I invented my pillow. Now the mice, there was no mice back then. I said that sounds kind of cool. Where's my pillow? And but it was a problem I had. I think most inventions or ideas come from problems. If you have a personal problem, you go, wow, this could fix that problem or this could solve this problem. Well, pillows were very much a problem in many different ways. Sleep is about keeping your neck straight, and I always had a problem. I'd use my arm, fold my pillow, it maybe um, flip it to the cool side. Wake up in the morning with maybe a sore neck or a dull headache. And so I had all these problems, and I had tried every pillow out there. Well, I reverse engineered what I would want to solve all these problems, and one of the things was I wanted a pillow, something you could adjust because everybody's shoulders are different, and I wanted something you could adjust. That premise right there was the hardest thing to get around. I tried. Oh, I remember one of my sons and I in the backyard were trying all different kinds of foams and fabrics and stuff flying around the neighborhood trying to getting these pieces or what would go inside this pillow. And I think we tried over 90 some different kinds of foams back then. This was over months and months, weeks became months. And I was so particular. We finally got down to one that would work. And, but then I didn't have a machine that made the pieces and the sizes that would be needed. So it was months more before we came. And I tried wood chipper. I tried cutting them with different things, and it didn't work. And I actually had to, from an old piece of farm equipment, actually had to invent the thing that would eventually cut these into the right pieces so you could adjust it. Then I had it all ready to go with that part, but then I wanted to even more. Back then, you couldn't wash and dry you couldn't wash and dry pillows. I wanted them to be able to wash and dry them. I wanted them to last. Pillows typically people would have them for a year or so, and they would collapse or whatever. You'd throw it in the closet and get new ones, and so I was very particular of each thing, reversing each thing. So if you came up to me and said, I want a pillow that stays cool, here it is. I want a pillow you can adjust, here it is. I want a pillow that lasts, here it is, 10-year warranty. I want a pillow that you can wash and dry, here it is. So I answered all these questions, but it took over a year to invent.
Okay. Wow, you gave me so much good background there. So it sounds like from a young age you were very much a problem solver. You wanted to, if there was a problem, your sister would call you, "Hey, Mike, can you
Right,
fix this?" And that led to, what could we make a business out of with this? And you landed on pillows, which is amazing.
right.
Because everybody uses pillows at night. You got to lay your head somewhere, get some rest, and to solve all of those problems is awesome. Everybody sleeps different, everybody has different needs, but it sounds like you found that you kind of cornered that niche in the
Yeah,
market.
and it was a product that has a wide filter, and
Yes.
but the thing is, when I invented my pillow, I just thought, wow, now I've got the perfect solution here. First, people sleep, and then but I went to where are you going to sell it? So I went to different stores and I walked in. I said, hey, the first one was actually a Bed Bath & Beyond. I said, hey, where? I said, how many you want? I have the best pillow here ever. And I was so excited that the manager goes, you need to leave. I didn't know anything about you know, retailing or selling a product. Most of in the retail world we're in and the world we're in, I didn't know anything about the marketing part of it. And so they turned me down, and then but I didn't give up. I kept trying to figure out different things. I kept knocking on box stores, and then finally said, "Well, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk? Why don't you do a kiosk?" And I said, "How do you spell that?" Um, and um, and I got dogs barking in the background. Kendra, could you please do something? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They um, with those doggies. But yeah, we had this kiosk. I said, how do you spell it? I didn't know anything about a kiosk,
Sure.
and it was in a mall, and for me, it was really hard for me because back then I couldn't talk to people. Remember, I had a parallel track of addiction too, and so I didn't want to be on drugs or anything with selling, but I had if you read my book, I had like a fear of rejection. So I couldn't talk to people.
Yeah.
You don't get rejected if you don't talk. And they're right up there they're right up there in my face. So I only went there one day, but I happened to sell a pillow to a guy that he said, "Do you have a business card?" I said, "Oh no, I'm all out." And remember, I was doing everything myself, even the signs and designing stuff and I remember it was kind of hokey back then, but family owned and operated, and but I was only there the 30 days or 45 days. I was only there that one day, and we had only sold like 12 pillows, and so it was a big failure at the time. And um, it gets into January and I was completely out of money and that guy that I'd been there that one day, he called me up. He said, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow?" He said, "It changed my life." He said, "I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot there?" I said, "Sure." And then I went into this home and garden show and I put a table in front of me so that people couldn't it was kind of a shield from the people, right?
Yeah.
And then I changed my signage and I got all, um, um, guaranteed the most comfortable pillow you ever own. And I changed kind of the marketing part of it. And I sold 18 pillows that day. But the key was they came back the next day, all of them paid to get back in the show to tell me how it had changed their life. And I just, how it was amazing they could sleep. So I was so excited that it wasn't that I had sold them. It was that I helped these people. I just got hooked on that. I just got So I ended up doing home shows and fairs for years and going town to town. And they have home shows, state fairs everywhere, which turns out for any entrepreneur, that's called, that's your best place to bring a product because you can then get feedback from the people. And it was like just information as they would buy it, and they would come back, and I would hear from them later and keep their address and their names and giving back, to improve it, which by the way, mine was really different. I never had to improve it. The same pillow that I invented back then is what we have today, 85 million My Pillows later.
Wow. I was going to ask if there was anything, because it sounds like customers were very happy, but was there anything that you tweaked ultimately after
Yeah,
those couple big sales?
the only thing I tweaked was I made different size lofts in the beginning. Right in the beginning I had one size, and imagine where you move this pillow and you get your height, but you needed more of the patented fill, so to speak, for it because if you're a really big guy, you just needed more, and you needed less for stomach sleeping, a little more for back sleeping, and then a little more for your side, your distance from your head to your bed. So it was kind of the patented fill never changed, and by the way, I went and got a patent. When I got a patent, I actually was approached at the Minnesota State Fair, and they said, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we checked out this stuff." Now, I didn't know 100% that it would last 10 years. He said, "This this pillow or this foam will last 10 years." And he said, he told me about the big pillow giants out there that will never let this on the market. He goes, "You hear about the cars that got 200 miles a gallon, you don't hear about them anymore." And he said, "They're going to go around you, get a patent, and never let this on the market because it's too good. It'll take away all the other pillows out there," and which kind of scared me at the time. So I went and got a patent, and any entrepreneurs out there that invent stuff, you should get, provisional patents are very easy to get. They're like $150 or a couple $100, and you get them online. And I suggest that to anybody, just to at least get that to protect that you can always make your own product. That's number one, because with that, at least you can always make it. Even if you're copied out there, sure, you can maybe go after them, but you might not have the money to do it, but you don't want to be shut down on your own product.
Right.
And but I learned so much by being directed into those home shows and fairs, just learning so much from the people you're selling to, the customers, and I met a lot of thousands and thousands of people over the years that had other products and stuff, and now there was a lot of them that would tweak because based on the feedback, and I ended up helping so many of them during that time. In fact, to this day, now I have mystore.com, which is USA products and entrepreneurs made in the USA that I've had for 5, 6 years now. Where my store, we have them a platform so they're not copied out there on Amazon and your big box stores. That's one fear of people when you invent products. Um, it's really bad out there where they try and copy you and then steal your products. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff being done to protect people now, entrepreneurs that weren't protected back then.
And that's awesome because it's the dupes of the world. I mean, everybody and people go right to Amazon. If you want something a little bit cheaper, is there a dupe
Yeah,
of it that you can get cheaper? And is the quality there or anything like that? Who knows? But
right.
I know that happens quite a bit.
All the time, and that's
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned. I've kept the battle for decade, 2.5 decades now, or 2 decades, and that's when these entrepreneurs would come to me that had products and you copied on Amazon, but there are ways, to stop them and to turn in, it's gotten better nowadays with that, and with Google AdWords. I mean, there's all kinds of things, Facebook, all these places out there where things get copied and you're just sitting at home, you're devastated.
Mm.
But those things are changing. I personally have worked with our great president where he's put some stuff in place to protect us from China that was overtaking our Facebook ads with at least 3 platforms. So there's a lot of good things being done, um, when you have a problem solution and you can get the word out, um, it's it's kind of the first one too. Is a very big thing to get that name out there. But there's so many things that come into play. That you got to get. Um, for instance, the name My Pillow, I went and got, people, whatever you're getting for your website, you need to get that first before you apply to your state for your name. Because what they'll do, there's little spies there will grab that name, and then all of a sudden you go to get your website name, and it's been taken, and then they want thousands of dollars for it. There's
Right.
just so many things that it's um, where bad people and bad actors have gotten involved in, but it's getting better and better. So,
Yeah. Well, that's good. I love that there's more protections in place for
yeah.
entrepreneurs and patents and all of that. And I was going to ask you, what was your big break in this whole process of starting My Pillow? And it sounds like it was the home and garden shows. And shout out to,
Well, that was a divine appointment when that guy called me. But
yeah,
that's for everyone out there. That's the fastest path. Is you can take and get any product that, and I'm talking products now, and get out there and everybody can be, you can get into your home shows everywhere, your state fairs and stuff, and that's a good path there. But now I went a different. By the time we got to 2011, I had a dream of an infomercial, and I didn't realize, and this is what people need to be careful because they see My Pillow everywhere. In the United States, the infomercials, which are half hour, they only work on the front end in Japan. Now, this is it's very interesting. I didn't know that then. What I mean on the front end is here's your infomercial. Um, the money you take in from that infomercial usually will not cover the cost of the ad. Okay,
okay.
but your branding to get into the box store. Okay, so as soon as they see that much in, but it's become such a monopoly out there with the box stores where there these a few big companies kind of monopolize that. You're as seen on TV people, so to speak. But anyway, I cut into this. So mine was a little bit of an anomaly where I told my friends and family, I have a dream of an infomercial. It's gonna be the biggest infomercial in the world. And we pulled our money. And like I say, I didn't know it was kind of set for failure because they just don't work here on the front end. Well, we went to film this in St. Paul, Minnesota in August of 2011. And they brought in a real Hollywood producer to produce mode. I had in my head a live audience and stuff. And we were doing our reads, just me and this gal I did pillow shows with. All I had done is these shows at fairs. And he texted the other guy, said, "This is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV." And he says, "Well, he's paying you. Just, quiet down. He's paying you." So, but the next day I went out there for filming and I seen the crowd and I clammed up. I was just scared to death
Yeah.
because it's a little different. When it was all of a sudden there it was. And like I say, I had fear of public speaking, just a horrific fear of public speaking.
Sure.
And it came out. And then I said, well, can we bring a table in like I did at the shows, at the home shows and stuff, and then throw away the teleprompter and just do it naturally? And that's what we did. And it aired October 7th, 2011, the middle of the night. I was living in my sister's basement and it just exploded. I had 10 employees. 45 days later, I had 500 employees. In 2 months, I was the
Wow.
number one infomercial in the world by December 26th. And but here's the deal. You talk about, everyone says, well, you grow too fast, too quick. We just exploded. And in 6 months, I took in over $100 million. But I woke up in May of that year and I was $6 million in debt. And I don't have no banquet, it was never borrowing money there back then. And I was devastated, but we take in all those things that happened in 2012. Eventually, we took in. I said, "Well, we have to see what happened." There was betrayal, handshake deals that didn't work. There were deals that there was no tracking, no good tracking. So I didn't know which commercials worked where. I didn't know which one worked or not. And I said, how can you do advertising if you don't know which spot works and which one doesn't? It's like
Right.
having a ball team of not knowing which one's batting good and which one's not. So, So I pulled everything in house, everything. And started taking apart each segment, going, what, how can I make this the best it can be? That includes call center, that includes email marketing, includes, we were already doing all our own manufacturing, but the biggest thing was the tracking of the ads, of each one. What if you had to live on one commercial in the middle of the night on CBS or Fox or whatever it was, on that commercial, and if it costs $2,000, well, you want to bring in at least, two, 3,000 to break even, whatever you can eat, so you need good tracking, which would be a 1-800 number just for that. You would need a promo code just for that exact ad. It's kind of like, what if I had to live on just one show? You want to make that show the best you can be on that day, because that's the way I did live for all those years. Everything
Right.
I had was in the back of that pickup truck, right? So we did that, pulled it all in house, and that's where my pillow just went to levels unseen. Um, is it with this national brand? But the thing is, I look back, and I'll tell this for any entrepreneur. At the time, it was devastating, just like back when I had to sell that bar and that restaurant back then. Um, but at the time, 2012 was absolutely devastating. I thought there's no way could ever dig out of this. But if 2012 hadn't happened, my pillow wouldn't be here. 85 million pillows sold later, because I learned, and rather than take it as, oh, I'm going to quit, I'm going to walk away. No, you learn from things like that so much. Bring it in and take it apart. What went wrong? Well, it's called, and make it better. And like, I tell entrepreneurs everywhere too. I said, you really need to watch deviations. This is so key. When you have your baseline, your deviations, let's say you have um, one show that all of a sudden did really good. Well, find out why did that do good, because you need a different input to get that output. So something had to happen.
Right.
And you focus on the good. And then if something bad happens, like I had all these things in 2012, you take apart each segment. You go, hey, how can I make this the best it could be? How can I do this? And one of the things is that hurts products is you'll get these manufacturers that will say, um, if you buy more, you're getting a better deal on your raw material and stuff. Okay, negotiating that is very very key in the beginning. And, if you can get those down and get whoever the manufacturer, get them on board with, hey, we're in this together. If this works, we're going to be making all this. So try and get that price in the beginning, so you're um, when you have your prototype, but then when you have your actual products and you're selling them, I think, and it's so important to have the long term vision too, so that you know. Like me, like I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. I actually sold my pillow at too low of a price. And I had a guy come up to me at that kiosk. He goes, "You got to be at this price before it gets here. Yeah, you need this much margin to make it because of all these expenses and that you have." But there was just so many things that I had to learn the hard way. And um, for entrepreneurs out there, I always say that when you're first getting into things, this is really important. Look if there's anything out there that's like it maybe, or that's similar, and go learn from them, the successful ones. Learn from them. What are their successes over here? If you have someone that you have that you even know, say, hey, I'm getting into this. And it doesn't have to be exact business, but a like business, and then pick their brains and go, and do your research, do your due diligence
Yeah.
before you get out there. And and then also to take that risk. I mean, you gotta, so many great ideas, and entrepreneurs are just afraid. They're afraid of going out there, and it stops them cold. It stops them in their tracks. One of the things too is, once you're there, let's say it's a service business or a product, treating every customer like it's your only customer. That's so key, because if they tell other customers. I mean, that's where you get this at these shows, when they call them the trenches. When you're doing the home shows and the fairs, you're out there with your product, and but treating every customer like your only customer and following that customer through. I mean, the customer service is key. That is so key. I can't even tell you that how key that is. You can have the best product in the world and ruin the whole business because your customer service was bad. People have other things to do, and and they're not gonna. Your product can get all the recognition. You need both of them to go hand in hand, and so doing your due diligence, um, learn as much as you can, and then jump in, and don't be afraid of setbacks. Just learn from them, and then also treat every employee. You start getting employees like it's your only employee. The people around you are key too. They need to believe in what you're doing. They need to believe in what you're doing, and that's also very key. But the biggest thing too with the product, I'm kind of all over the board here, but a product, if it solves a problem, most products are born out of problem solution. If it
Right.
solves a problem, solve the problem. Here's what I tell everybody: solve the problem first, and if the problem's solved, and then you can work on what it's going to cost and what it's going to be. If you solved a problem, and it's even if it's an improvement on another product, if it's an improvement, it doesn't. Look what I did with a pillow. Everyone's going, Mike, it's a pillow. But I had to change a whole paradigm in the industry. I had to change the price point because my pillow was cost a lot to make versus pillows back then where other pillow. They didn't even associate pillows with sleep in the early 2000s. It was like, it's just a pillow. And
What were we doing with pillows?
yeah, yeah. And,
Listen,
and now,
sleeping.
people come up at shows and going, um, we wouldn't even let them touch the pillow, whatever, and like this. They come up, how much are they? And we would never tell them the price right away. We would say, well, wouldn't you like to know what you're buying? And we go, what's a pillow? I say, no, 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 it's not just a pillow. Okay, we
Right,
showing
right.
them
That's
everything.
what you
And
think.
since then, I want to tell you a few other products that have followed those, what I've told you. It's take my towels. That's a really interesting one. The towels we have, the bath towels we have at My Pillow, that came out of another problem. I had when I grew up, towels worked. They dried you, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling these towels that I'm getting. They felt like kind of slimy or like lotiony, and you got them home, and they didn't dry you. It was very strange. I'm going, what's going on? And I did my due diligence, and I checked out the towel, what was going on in the towel industry, and sure enough, in 2006 our government made deals with overseas with Pakistan, China, India, all these places, and let towels come into our country unregulated and with no tariffs or no fees, and so it became very, very, um, I don't know what the word would be, competitive. And everybody started adding additives to the towels like fabric softeners, lotions, oils, so that it would feel soft in the store. But you got home and it took away the absorption, which towels should
You're
do.
not actually getting dry from the
You're
towels, which
not
is the
actually
whole
getting
point.
dry. So
Yeah,
I dove into that problem and I said, okay, I found a towel manufacturer that would they had this technology where hey, they were soft but yet they absorb. So I did a commercial and I had two towels side by side. This one here, the water didn't even go in. I said you could line a swimming pool with this, and so it was very, very interesting. And people now too, if you have a product, because of our social media platforms, you can actually make your own little mini commercials, put them out on social media, and for very inexpensive. So you're not putting all this production into, entrepreneurs have done that same way. And then because of it, the platforms that are out there, you can even get the word out where I couldn't back in the day, like we can now. And
right.
but that's so I had the towels and then um and then sheets. When I did sheets, I studied sheets. I studied bed sheets. I thought, well, maybe if you pay more money, they're better. Well, that wasn't true. It was just, but I had to study the weaves. I had to study, like I said, I just dove in and then reverse engineered how what could make it better. When I did beds, when I did mattresses and mattress toppers, I went to the manufacturer and said, what does this do for your sleep? What does this do for your sleep? What does this do? It wasn't like I want to know why they're putting in all these different things that they put in our beds. Well, this one's decorative. Well, okay, I'm putting that over aside for now. I
No
want
one
to
cares
sleep
about
there.
that.
Yeah, yeah, right. I don't care what my bed looks like. I want it to
Right.
work. Right,
It's
right,
covered with a sheet anyways. We don't need any
right,
decoration underneath that.
right. So,
Um,
so it's been, and it's been, with, like I say, with my store, I finally put up my store to help entrepreneurs have a platform, because there's nothing worse than when you get so far and then your idea gets taken from you. So these protections ahead of time to be able to protect yourself and to go to one level after another. But I can't say enough about home shows and fairs because you can actually make a living too at that, and people love it. At one time, I had with my pillow 110, 120 maybe individuals going around this country, and that's all they did was do home shows and fairs. They loved it.
yeah.
It was around the
Yeah.
clock.
Get to travel,
Yeah,
see all
yeah,
these new
yeah,
places, meet all these new
yeah,
people, and spread the
yeah.
word ultimately.
Right
Well,
on.
I think it's incredible what you've built. You brought up fear a lot throughout the podcast, and it sounds like every time you had an obstacle or something that maybe could hold someone else back, you persevered, you pushed through, you
Right.
learned, and it really is incredible what you've built over the years.
Yeah.
And improved so many millions and upon millions of people's sleep
Right.
and bettered their lives because sleep is really at the core of what allows us to do what we do every day. So I think that's really awesome. And I normally end these podcasts asking for any advice that you have for aspiring entrepreneurs or, business owners, things like that. But you've given so many wonderful tidbits of
Yeah.
knowledge and
Yeah. I really can't, when you, and I'll say one more thing too. When you start growing, just make sure that communication line is open. Like right now, my my company, most of my employees have my direct cell phone number, even though I'm the CEO.
yeah,
And I always work on deviations and blocks. So we're all like a big team. And if there's something that happens that's a deviation, I'm making decisions here, based on everything's running smoothly. And so any one of my employees can report, hey, there's something wrong with I see a problem here on the assembly line. Something's wrong with this that's coming down. If something's wrong, it gets reported and same way, like my call center, like I say, the customer service, those are our ears out there to hear. If you hear a problem, if you've got a product and you, or even service, and you hear one customer, well, it could be more, but that one customer that
right,
had that problem, and you really have to address stuff immediately. It's not like I see the failures a lot in corporate America where the problem arises and then they don't find out about till the third quarter. Let's look at the third quarter report here and see, well, we spent too much money over here in sector 3 and there was problems over here. But with an entrepreneur-led company, yeah, if you're out there and it's enjoyable, everybody, when you're doing it, you just, the team underneath you and the people underneath you, you're all working together and it just becomes amazing. Like I say, have them believe in what you're doing. That's a key too. And then
yeah.
it's really
Believe
amazing.
in the mission.
But I can't say enough about do your due diligence, whatever the idea is, and then you know what, take a chance because it's so rewarding if you go in there and but learn by someone that'll like business and do your due diligence, and then you can, like I say, you can, especially for products nowadays with the home shows and fairs, you can test it very inexpensively and just get in there and see how it's going to go. And all you're doing then is multiplying it on all the platforms that are out there now. There's so many.
Right.
And,
I know
so.
the marketplace landscape is totally different than it was when you started off in the early
Absolutely,
2000s.
absolutely.
So,
And I don't want everybody to feel that you could, oh, I'm going to get this and be on TV. Like I say, the reason my pillow, there's a lot of things I want to tell people so you don't get discouraged on that when you get out there with all this products on TV. Most TV products are most products that make it with that kind of advertising because where you're spending a lot of money. It has to be a very wide filter. Like everybody needs a pillow, right? Everybody needs towels. If people say to me, all the time, well, Mike, why don't you do that with your dog bed? Well, here's the reason. You spend, let's say, $2,000 for an ad on dog beds. Well, here's people that don't have dogs. Here's people that don't. Your
And
filter
they're just
becomes
gonna
very narrow.
tune that out.
So, right,
Yeah,
so you spent all this money on people that don't even have dogs. So you got to be real careful on that filter. Not to discourage people if they have um, a specific product that is for maybe a very, very, very directed towards one need, and not everybody has that need. Well,
right.
that's fine, but then you better spend your dollars directly to those people that have that, and that's key to marketing too. Make sure that and you can do that by filters if you're on your Facebooks of the world, filter it down to the audience that would need your product. So.
For sure. Well, Mike,
Yeah.
thank you so very much for joining me today. I know that listeners are going to really enjoy hearing your story. I know most people know Mike Lindell, but just getting a little bit more background into MyPillow and the iconic brand that you have built over the years, and your story of true perseverance as an entrepreneur. So
Well, thank you so much
thank
for having me.
yes,
Okay.
no, thank you. And if anyone wants to check out mystore.com, you can find Mike's products along with other
Yeah,
entrepreneurs'
over
products. And
1,200 entrepreneurs are there now, over 1,200 made in the USA products. You guys go check it out. And if you have a product out there, there's a place you can apply right there to our team that can help to get up on the platform. So
love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Good luck in Minnesota, and hopefully
thanks.
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, thanks.
Bye.